Welcome to episode 169 of the Fully In It podcast. How has your experience of motherhood or entrepreneurship been so far? If you're like a lot of women I hear from, you've probably experienced periods of loneliness, wondering if you're on the right path, and hoping to find true community that actually gets you. In this episode, I want to share some unusual perspectives with you on being a mom and a business owner that will hopefully empower you and help you to feel less alone, because believe me, I get it and I have been there. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Welcome to the Fully In It podcast with Kate Saffel, a show for powerful moms growing life-changing businesses while showing up intentionally for their families. I teach you how to create a family-first and profitable business in less time by leveraging simple strategy, mom life-friendly systems, and above all, the mindset of going fully in it. You ready? So when I was thinking about what topic to do for this episode, it popped into my mind that loneliness, more than ever, is a real issue that moms face. And I think we all know that if you take a peek around social media, you can see that not only is there a huge desire for fitting in when it comes to trends and ideas and certain aesthetics, but at the same time, there are so many women, so many mothers who feel like they're falling through the cracks. And maybe this might be you. Maybe this has been your experience so far of motherhood, whether that's in your local community or online, of just feeling like, gosh, I'm really alone in this. Or maybe you have community support as a mother, but when it comes to business, does anybody really get you? I know it can be very isolating to do a business as a mom. Our path is not a common one, even though, again, if you look on social media, you can probably find a ton of mom entrepreneurs. However, if you look into your normal life, right, like in the communities that you hang out, the spaces that you're in, how often do you run into another mom business owner? It is increasing, but it's not common. And so if you find yourself in this third way of being a mom and an entrepreneur, this episode is especially for you. But also, if you're not an entrepreneur and you just happen to land here, don't tune out, because the lessons and the message that I want to share here with you will be so encouraging. So for me personally, this has come up quite a lot over my almost 14 years of being a mother, which I cannot even believe I'm saying that. It's just, I feel like I just became a mom like last year, and I'm going to have a 14-year-old this spring. So I do have a lot of perspective to share, that's for sure. And this is something that I have experienced so much over the years. I remember very early on in motherhood, just trying to find where I belonged. If I had certain beliefs and ideas, thoughts about the way that I wanted to parent, the way I wanted to do home life. And sometimes I went into spaces where I felt like those ideas weren't always welcomed, or it wasn't safe for me to share what I really thought. I remember going to different moms groups I would hear about in my local community, just like hoping maybe these will be my people, and then sitting there and thinking, okay, when can I leave? Because it just wasn't the right fit for me. And I've always been a bit of an outlier, and maybe this is you too, where I haven't felt like I comfortably fit in one box over another. I've always had a lot of interests and desires and dreams and passions. And so I never really considered myself like a typical stay-at-home mom, even when I was one, because I had a lot of ambition outside of the home. And at the same time, I also, in my early motherhood years, I was teaching at a university, first in person and then later online. And so in some ways, I was a working mom too, even though my days looked like a stay-at-home mom. And so I didn't really fit into a neat, tidy little box of This is who I am as a mother. And I'll be very honest with you, I'm really glad that I did my early motherhood years before social media became what it is today. And if you are a brand new mom, I feel for you. And my biggest encouragement is not to let social media become your litmus of what is a good motherhood or what is a happy home life or how things should look. So much of what is on social media is fake, right? It's created to get you to engage, but it's not always reality. So that was kind of my very early on experience. And then as I added more kids, I guess I got even weirder because I started to dream of traveling full time with my family, and nobody was doing this. I would read blogs because at the time that was where you could find the information. And there were a few people I connected with online who traveled full time. They were nomadic, they were homeschooling, they were doing life differently. And I was like, maybe these are my people. But in my own home community, right, and the people I would see every day, I didn't feel safe to share what I was really excited about and what I was dreaming about because, again, it didn't really fit in the box. And I was always afraid, like, what if they think I'm not content with what I have? Do I seem like I'm wanting more than what is the typical motherhood experience? And you know what? Now looking back, I'm like, yeah, of course I did. And if that's you too, there is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you for desiring and wanting more. If God has put that on your heart, it is there for a reason. So I wouldn't even question yourself and I wouldn't even think twice about it. So we did become a little bit weird, right? We traveled full time for a couple of years and we homeschool and we just, what is the phrase? Like we dance to the beat of our own drum. And in doing so, I've actually drawn in people maybe like you, right? I've drawn in people who respect that and they're curious about that. And that has helped me to find community. But it has been a long journey. And this may show up for you too in business, right? Of being an entrepreneur as a mom is just kind of an unusual path. And what I have found is that I even do entrepreneurship differently than most business owners I see. My kids aren't in school. I don't have a full-time nanny. I don't have a giant team. And I'm always unapologetically putting my family first, even if that means content doesn't go out. Even if that means I'm juggling things, I'm waking up earlier, I'm staying up late to make it happen. I will always run my business by putting my family first. And there's just other people who don't get it. I had this moment earlier today, oh my gosh, where I was on Threads. I don't know if you're on Threads, but you should connect with me over there if you are. I've been really enjoying it because it feels less pressure than sometimes how Instagram feels because it's just writing and I love to write. But I was on Threads and I saw this post pop up and it was a dad and he was a business owner and he was saying how do I manage all of this? He had 3 young kids and his wife had just had their 4th baby and his wife was a stay-at-home mom. And he had his own business and his sales were dropping because he was tired and he wasn't sleeping. And I just had to laugh to myself and I was like, yeah, dude, I get it, except I am the mom. Like I am the one who is going to be having a baby here in another month or so. And I'm the CEO and I'm the homeschool parent. And so I had to kind of help myself in that moment to have a little bit of empathy for him and not just be irritated. Like, yeah, you've got an entire stay-at-home wife, which we all don't have access to. I am that. So anyway, I had a laugh about that and it just reminded me, yeah, we moms, we do business differently. And instead of seeing that as there's something wrong or I'm missing something, it's like, what if I own it? What if I'm like, yeah, I'm really powerful. Like, look at everything I'm capable of doing. Very few people can do what I do. And this is what I'm called to do. And so I just roll with it. So I share all of this because I want you to know if you've had these experiences or you've had these thoughts that you're not alone. But I do remember one time I was coaching a client a few years ago, and she was just sharing how she never has felt like she's fit in anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter what spaces she's in. She always feels a bit like an outsider. And I know maybe you get that too. It's a really terrible feeling. And so what I coached her on and I reminded her is that when you stop trying to fit into other people's circles and you create your own, aka you start leading by example, what happens is that you attract and draw in the people who get you. They get your mission, they get your heart, and they're just like you. But there's a period in there between you making the decision to lead and then you leading and putting it out in the world where it does feel really lonely, where you wonder, does anybody even care? Does anybody see me? Does anybody get me? And you have to stick with it and be willing to lead through your own discomfort, share your message, and trust that there are absolutely other people out there who are just like you and are equally feeling lonely. They're equally looking for a space to belong, except now you get to be the one to create it. And what a gift that gets to be for other people, but you have to be willing to go first. And this was me. All these years that I've had a business of saying, you know what, this is what I want. This is what I want to see online for moms, and I'm not seeing it. Or it's this ideal that is not really practical for most moms, right? It's like aesthetically pleasing, but it's not reality. I'm like, no, I'm gonna create it. I want to be the example of what's possible. Yes, I get that it's going to be a bit lonely. I am willing to do it. And my experience has been, gosh, I've had the most amazing women from around the world come into this community because of it. But it took time, and I had to be willing to be vulnerable. And I know too, if you've been hurt in the past, right, this can make it especially difficult. Maybe you've had a bad experience in community and you're afraid to try again, or maybe you have social anxiety and it's just really hard for you to show up. And I get it and I feel it. And at the same time, if not now, then when? Would you be willing to feel some of this discomfort to change the way that your daily experience is so that you feel less alone, so that you feel supported? I know for me, I had a negative church experience many, many years ago, and I think I've mentioned it on the podcast, where I felt excluded by the women at the church, and I had previously felt like I, quote, belonged, and then I left and I came back, and the more I talked about having a business, even though I wasn't openly talking about it because I kept all of that quiet, but it was on social media and whatnot, the more that they became aware of it, the more I got excluded. And I thought, is it just because I'm not like a traditional stay-at-home mom? What is it about this that makes them not want me around? And it really hurt. And ultimately, Kirk and I ended up deciding to leave that church because I would leave after church every Sunday and I would just be in tears because nobody would talk to me. And I was like, I don't know, what did I do wrong? So ultimately, I realized I didn't do anything wrong. I don't know if I was just threatening to them, if I just didn't fit their narrative of what a mom should be, and because of it, they excluded me. I'm not entirely sure, but I had to come to peace to it, especially when we joined a new church. And we joined a new church a couple years ago here in Florida, and I just remember feeling so scared for the women in the church to get to know me, because I thought, oh gosh, once they find out I have this online business and they find out what I do and they find out I talk about money and, like I have this impact, they're not going to like me and they're going to reject me. And then I'm going to be out of a community again. And this is me just being very honest and vulnerable with you. But the really beautiful thing happened. I had to be willing to take down my walls and be vulnerable. And I feel fully accepted by this group of women. And they know I have an online business. They follow me on social media. And so far, I haven't gotten kicked out of the group. And it has been incredibly redeeming for me to have that experience. And so if you've been hurt in the past, I know it's scary, but sometimes you have to put yourself back in rooms that will heal you and remind you that you're worthy of being loved and that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And I want you to know above all that you always belong in my community. No matter who you are, how you do family life, the choices you make, you belong here. And I will continue to create safe spaces for you. So just know that you always have a space with me. Make sure you stay connected with me, whether that's on social media, on Instagram, and my username is @happierInMotherhood. You're on my email list. Whatever it is, stay plugged in because I am here for you. And I'm going to always be cheering you on. And maybe this year is just the year that you break free of the loneliness, of the worries, and you find your communities that actually and truly get you. And who knows, maybe you're the one who creates them. Okay. Sending so much love your way. Thank you for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.